Prince William offers support for Epstein's victims.
And Meghan hits another red carpet without Prince Harry. Hi, all. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here in California.
And I'm Rupert Bell. Welcome to Ireland. Trim, to be precise. Yes, there is a town called Trim, and that's where I am. But more importantly, for the next hour or so, I'll be bringing you all the news from the UK about the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Rupert, you sent me pictures of where you are, and there's the most beautiful castle near you. Talk to me about this gorgeous castle. I'm a castle connoisseur. I love castles.
I love a good castle, and I was surprised because obviously my other job is as a horse racing broadcaster for Talk Sport, and we're getting ready for the big Cheltenham Festival, which takes place in 4 weeks' time. But so I'm on a bit of a hard-working tour of Ireland. But much to my surprise, we're staying at a place called Trim, which seems an odd name for a town, but it does mean something if you look up in Gaelic what there's sort of something to do with the lords and things. But anyway, this castle, I'm told, is the largest in Ireland, that they started building in 1172, finished in 1220. Various people have lived in it through the years, and then I think, but now is open for the public, and I'm staying in a hotel, the Trim Castle Hotel, just by this fabulous castle. Beautiful part of Ireland. I love Ireland. It's such a scenic country. And as I say, even on a wet February day, Trim Castle looked all trim and proper for us to enjoy earlier this afternoon.
Man, you're making me want to visit Ireland. I mean, not that I don't already want to visit Ireland, but the idea of like a beautiful, oversized castle, man,
Yeah.
that's a great day for me.
Do you see yourself as Rapunzel locked in or isn't it Rapunzel who's
Yeah, it
locked
is.
in
It is.
who's locked in a castle, and then I have to climb up a window to rescue? Is that the sort of thing that you would like to happen to yourself? Not to be rescued by me, of course, but
Well,
you know
I
what I
just
mean.
feel like if I was in a castle, I'd figure it out. Like I just think I would. Well, look at Cinderella. Cinderella made friends, and Snow White. She made friends with. They all made friends with the mice. I could make some friends with some rodents. My dogs are the size of them. I just feel like I'd be happy in a castle. I don't think I'd be
Well,
trying to escape. I'm not Meghan Markle.
in 1172, when it was built, I imagine heating was a bit limited, and this is a damp country, so you wouldn't mind it. You'd have to be used to the elements, I
Yeah,
think, because you'd be hunting for a roaring fire somewhere. So you had to be pretty hardy, even to live in a castle, even though you've had minions looking after you. So
that's true.
do you like the idea of minions looking after you? Not the
Oh, of
cartoon
course.
characters, but
Of course. Of course I do. Of course I do, Rupert. Well, what's next on your agenda then? Are you staying? How long are you in Ireland?
just 3 days, and then back into the UK, and then, as I say, I'm getting ready to put my GG cap on. So, but still very much got a brief on the Royals, because I have to say we didn't do a program last week, but it's not been dull. Let's put it like
Right.
that. It's
We've been
been a
so
busy
busy.
time.
Right. And let's talk about some breaking news that you sent me earlier today. Prince William and Princess Catherine now acknowledging the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. I've seen a lot of anger that the royal family, according to some critics, have not addressed this properly. And this does seem to be William and Catherine acknowledging that and wanting to be different. We go through the never complain, never explain saga, or motto, I should say, so often. And this is one of those instances where it does feel like maybe they have to acknowledge it a little bit more than they have. But William and Catherine trying to put distance between themselves and the fallout from Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. In a statement released by Kensington Palace, as Prince William traveled to Saudi Arabia on official business, the Prince and Princess of Wales addressed the scandal. saying that I can confirm the Prince and Princess of Wales have been deeply concerned by the continued revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. To be fair, the King and Queen Camilla acknowledged the victims in November 2025, which historically was a huge moment, Rupert. What is your reaction to the Prince and Princess of Wales saying something?
I think it's quite interesting because, of course, not only we had that statement, but just as we record this, sort of in the last couple of hours, we've just seen the fact that Prince William has gone to Saudi Arabia on the behest of the British government. So he's on an official visit. And it is quite interesting that they put out a statement before he goes there because it is likely that during this visit, he's going to have to be answering a few questions from the press. And I think the tone was set by Prince Edward last week when he was in the UAE and he came out and said something and said, we're thinking of the victims. And that was the first indication of, with the latest developments of the royal family putting their head above the parapet. He didn't say much more than that. So in a way, this actually sort of nips that one in the bud from William's point of view, because look, he can say, well, I've said all I can say, and I think, that's enough that he can say. It is obviously an issue that we know, and I'm sure you've been talking about it regularly, that is causing the royal family huge issues. Now, in this country, we have got not only a political crisis going on from the fallout from the Epstein files that
Do
have
you
been
think Keir Starmer will step down, Rupert?
no, well, at the moment, as we record this, and it's because a lot changing, he's holding firm. But it's obviously all about the Peter Mandelson when he was made US ambassador and the relation, and actually ending up doing an interview that sounds as tone deaf as Prince Andrew's interview, a Newsnight interview, given the circumstances of the allegations that have come out from the latest tranche of Epstein files that have been released. But in terms of the royal family, we have a constitutional crisis because it again is causing huge problems for the royal family. So, and Andrew has created this. Now, this must be deeply frustrating for the king, but it's also frustrating for William because here he is going to Saudi Arabia to represent this country from a sort of in his role as the heir and important. He'll be meeting the Crown Prince, MBS, and all sorts of people there. Yet the whole thing is being dominated by Andrew and the Epstein affair. And that is the big problem for the royal family. And we've talked about it before, that they can't get on the front foot from a PR perspective. We've got the government having to fight off their problems with the Peter Mandelson fallout politically and the royal family, the continued fallout from Prince Andrew. And I think it was a week ago, wasn't it, that we saw Andrew sort of riding around Windsor as if there wasn't a care in the world. Then he's smiling in the car, and then it would have seemed that there must have been a summit of some description because suddenly.
Wait, well, we're going to get there. That's our next story, but I want to
oh, well, anyway, but you see
I
what
want
I
to stay on
mean.
top of this. Can I ask you a question? And it's okay if you don't know the answer. We discussed just over text message kind of casually yesterday. The news story that broke based on some of the DOJ's messages that they had, where ex Prince Andrew apparently he not only lied about, which we've seen proof of before, he not only lied about when he truly does cut off ties with Epstein. We now have multiple pieces of evidence that prove that he remained deeply close to Jeffrey Epstein after he told the BBC that he was no longer friends with him. But he passed on confidential reports to Epstein while he was Britain's trade envoy. Could this be the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to anything legal? Or is it not illegal what he did in passing on some of that? Because it was pretty classified information based on what I could tell, or classified at least at the time. It was going to give Jeffrey Epstein a step up financially if Jeffrey Epstein made specific moves based on what Andrew was saying to him. Is it illegal, or is it just one of those like you're not supposed to do this like rules?
I think there is cause for investigation now. You see that Peter Mandelson is being investigated. We've seen pictures of police going in and taking away his files for the things that he is alleged may have happened back in the day when he was business secretary. So for Andrew, when he in his role as trade envoy, and this is why I say it is a bit of a constitutional crisis. Now he's stripped of his title, and if they feel there is a case, and people are saying that maybe police do need to look into this, because if he is passing on that is in, as he was a trade envoy to Jeffrey Epstein for his benefit, that on the face of it is not a good look, however way you go. So for Andrew, he might for the first time in his life be sweating. So,
I can't sweat. The Falklands.
Exactly. So this is the interesting dynamic, and this is the headache for William and the King. It was interesting to see that the Princess Royal was at a rugby match in Rome. She's been there for the Winter Olympics and went to a rugby match featuring Scotland, for which she is the president of the Scottish Rugby Football Union. They showed a picture of her, and a huge cheer rang round the crowd in Italy for her. So there is still, so they can, she is, as we know, a hugely popular figure. But this Andrew issue must be gnawing away at them, because we think, I don't know how many times you shrug your shoulders and go, oh my God, here we go again. When's it, the drip feed of stuff just makes it seem worse and worse. And at the moment, it seems to be heading for a giant waterfall of information that could really be damaging to Andrew. You just don't know. And so if there is a case that he was passing stuff on to Epstein that is of a sensitive nature, then he's now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and he may be in sort of secreted away in the Norfolk countryside. I think, it would be, this is the problem for the royal family, and I think they can't hide it and say, no, we don't want it, because that's not a good look. He can't be seen to be getting away if he's done something wrong and hide behind the cloak of something because he's a member of the royal family. If he's broken the law, then he should be investigated. There may be nothing, but that but is something that is lurking in the background.
I have heard, and I'm curious to know if you've heard the same, that the royal family is finding out about these messages in real time, that there was no warning, there was no heads up, and they are distraught over reading some of these things in the newspaper, seeing some of these things on the news. And there are internal debates between courtiers and between senior royals as to whether they should encourage Andrew to testify before Congress about any of the Epstein, drama. Are you hearing the same thing? Because I think some of the anger we're seeing is from people that suspect that the royal family has been protecting them. But I understand that Andrew lied to them as well about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and they feel an element of betrayal too.
I think they do, but I think when he was stripped of his, he was stripped of his HRH title some time ago. But when he was made just a commoner, Mountbatten-Windsor, I think it was done because I think maybe the King said to Andrew, and maybe William as well, said, is there anything else? To which he said, I don't know. Well, and I think at that moment, they couldn't be then a hostage to fortune. They needed to say, right, if you don't know, we can't take the risk. That's why you're being stripped of your title. That's why you've got to move out of Royal Lodge and get out of here. And then that decision looks entirely vindicated. Were they too late in leaping to do this? I don't know. But like many of us, I'm sure they are being blindsided. But the pictures and the stories of ladies being entertained in Buckingham Palace, which, while on the face of it is not unusual, because we know that associations and charities can easily, with royal, be shown around Buckingham Palace, quite normal. But in this circumstances, it doesn't feel quite so normal. And that is where the whole thing is a mess for the working members of the royal family. And as I say, William's gone off to Saudi Arabia and is, again, any press going there then while he asked about the visit, you know the way these things work. Question the soft question is done. Right, we come in with the real question. Are you even though they might say you can't answer, there will be other journalists from other countries who may be asking, so what do you think, William?
What an unfortunate position to be in, but I do think we saw William's stance as we
Yeah.
pivot to our next story. We do get a bit of a sense of where Prince William stands when it comes to um, his relationship with Andrew, according to the Daily Mail, with the undignified way that Andrew was shunned and rushed out of Royal Lodge in the black of night. According to the Daily Mail, he wasn't even finished packing his Windsor home when he was swooped away from Royal Lodge and dispatched by a car to the depths of Norfolk under the cover of darkness on Monday night, they say. The final straw, according to royal sources, was the sight, as you mentioned earlier, of the former prince trotting around the Windsor estate, literally on his high horse, weakly waving his hand to the public as if nothing had changed and he was still the grand old Duke of York. But the ultimate decision to extract him and send him into exile was taken on Sunday evening following an urgent discussion between the King and the Prince of Wales, who were both at Sandringham last weekend. Waving at the public harked back to his royal days when he was used to adulation and respect, said the insider. Andrew is having difficulty. This is hard to believe, Rupert. Andrew is having difficulty acknowledging reality and was increasingly causing concern at the palace, both as a sign of his mental state and because it wouldn't play well with the public witnessing him still enjoying the trappings of royalty. Can you imagine being a fly on the wall during that Sunday conversation between father and son? I bet I don't want to say Prince William was pulling his hair out because God love him, but I imagine that there was some frustration there.
Well, just a little bit on the side he was trying to pull out, but the it is a serious issue and it is not a joking matter. But those pictures, I just remember thinking, WTF? I mean,
Rupert.
what, you know, I'm sorry. Uh, you're just going, like, why are you smiling at people when you had seen over the weekend pictures of you leaning over a woman in it just ridiculous. And I think while some of the tone of that article might be giving it a bit of a sort of dramatic twist, I think the essence of it is right. We cannot have this anymore. It is such a bad look. And this is his problem. He has sense of entitlement. He still believes because he's always protested his innocence.
Yeah.
Yet in the we all know these files are. It does feel at times that it does seem to be the British too that are copying it. I don't. You might be able to reflect who's taking the rap in America just a little bit for Bill Gates, and that seems to be about it. I know there was a Super Bowl ad as well, I think from the victims, just trying to get American public opinion to really go make sure it's all out there. But from a British perspective, we do seem to be in the, there are people who are out there really, obviously Mandelson and Andrew. But Andrew, the royal family, now he's there in Norfolk, will it be the end of seeing him in public? I hope, he can't just sitting there. He's got to have a normal life, as I say, because he still hasn't been found guilty of anything. But in the eyes of the British public, I'm afraid, whether we like it or not, is not popular, and people think that he has behaved incredibly badly. He's lied, as we've seen from those interviews with his details, all these emails. And there's probably not too much reason to say, dispute them. But ultimately, it is for the royal family a huge problem for William and the king, and he must just end up rolling his eyes with absolute frustration. Because we even saw last week there was a heckler, and who was led away. And you might say, well, why was that? You are allowed to protest here, but I believe the people around him said, we don't want you around here. You've done your piece. So, we are have the right to protest in this country. But it just is a reflection of the simmering problems that the royal family have. And it must, for Andrew, Anne, the King, William, just a source of, well, their brother is just letting them down. And those pictures, Kinsey, just compounded that sense that when will he just look as if he's got any sense of contrition and sense of
Empathy,
it?
compassion, like
Yeah,
just pretend you're devastated. I mean,
yeah.
that's what the world wants to see. They want to see that you look defeated. Here, I did forget to mention this in that Daily Mail article, and you might appreciate it. The visual that they painted here. Empty walls are covered in patches of light where, until recently, glorious items of art from the royal collection were hung. I mean, I could see that immediately.
Mm.
And it just, I think it frames the, I mean, the abandoned house. I mean, it just kind of like shocks you to your core. That is quite the consequence for Andrew. Do we think they would or they could remove him from the line of succession over this? Don't you think this is important enough to do so?
I think there has to be a time. I mean, it then, well, I think, has to go before Parliament, and Parliament, I think, has got other issues.
Oh
Whether
my gosh. Yeah.
so, there's a lot going on with the fallout from it is dominating the the chat of everybody, the sort of the state of the nation because of this. But for Andrew, look, technically, it's a cosmetic thing because, barring the worst quirk of fate, he's never going to be king. Because obviously the line of succession is, as we know, King William George, right? And that should be the normal course of events. But for him to even be anywhere near, it may just again be a further confirmation that we've had enough of this, and I'm sure what odds do you give there will be more stuff to come out that will be a further damaging to him? I mean, your reaction there tells me all that you're expecting more, I'm expecting more, and then the King and William are going to have to somehow find a way. Their reaction again will be WTF times about 500, I think.
To your point, attorneys for survivors reported that the DOJ's slapdash redactions exposed the names and personal banking information of nearly 100 survivors. Following urgent requests from victims' lawyers, the DOJ temporarily took down several thousand documents to hide victims' identifying information. And that was in the July 30th 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images dump. And that wasn't everything. That was what they thought they had appropriately redacted, and they hadn't appropriately redacted it. So now I feel like they're going to, let's cross our fingers, go over what's left with a fine tooth comb. So it could be weeks from now, it could be months from now that we get even more videos, images, pictures. And I don't know the legitimacy of this, Rupert, but there have been rumors for years that Epstein had security videos placed throughout his house so that he could capture blackmail moments for some of these people. We haven't seen anything like that. So I don't know if that exists. But yeah, I am fearful that there's a lot more to come. And if I were King Charles and if I were Prince William, I'd have my underwear in a twist. I know you have a
Well,
different saying, but I don't.
um, boxers, or whatever. Anyway, I think there will be more to come out, and it may be 6 months down the line. This is the problem because the royal family try and get on the front foot, and maybe they will try. We've seen the fact that the king is out and about, and whatever is going on. William obviously doing what he's doing now. We've seen lots more of Catherine already this year. Okay, it's half term next week, so he'll come back. We probably be a week where they'll be with the children for half term week here in this country. But ultimately, it is, there'll be the fallout from Epstein is, I think, only going to get bigger not only in your country, but the ramifications in this country are still enormous. And, as I say, it's frustrating, I think, for the royal family. But Andrew, he has let his family down enormously by his arrogance, stupidity, and just insensitivity and think a sense of entitlement. I mean, words fail me that he could think that this was something that he should have thought about. He's obviously Sarah Ferguson is seriously implicated. There may be ramifications for the two children as well, Beatrice and Eugenie.
Is that
So it's
fair? Is that fair? Do you think I'm under the I keep saying, and I don't have a lot of people agree with me, that I think that they should disappear for a little while too, and
I,
until we understand what their financial relationships are with some of Andrew and Fergie's friends, I think that it's best that they just go away.
well, their husbands work and they just need to keep their head down and just head under and just because it must be their relationship with their parents must be fraught now with these further. They might be as blindsided by these revelations. Okay, they went to parties and obviously
And they
the
also went
big,
to visit him as
yeah.
adults right after he got out of jail
Mm.
as a convicted sex offender.
So it's not entire, and they would have been in their early 20s then, I
18,
think.
19, or 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going, help. Well, actually, you go, Sarah Ferguson, what are you doing putting your children in this position?
This
You
is the
know,
same age of the girls that he's
I
accused of.
know it's just it doesn't it beggars belief
It
that
really
people
does.
and at the same time she's asking for him to pay the flights.
Yeah.
If I read it, and you
And
go,
he did
and he did,
$15,000.
and paying her rent of 27,000. How? I mean, what's that? Everyone has to live within their means. I don't know what there's a check goes out for something. You live within your means.
Right.
You
If I
don't
can't
just
afford it, I don't get it. That's how I
yeah.
live. Yeah.
But she thought she could, and Andrew was the same. Their sense of entitlement has led them to this situation. They saw Epstein as a cash cow. He was going up. He's the hole in the wall. Go and get the money out, and any time, and he would deliver because he knew he could manipulate them. And this is why, as we come to that point earlier about the possibility of there being maybe some form of investigation into his financial dealings and what he's given passed on. And these emails might even prove what he has done when the next lot of emails come out. So hold your breath, I think, time for the King and Prince William. But hopefully, on his front, he can have a good trip to Saudi Arabia, which, let's be honest, is not without its complications.
I know.
But, he will go there. They are a big trading partner, and the whole area is a bit of a melting pot in terms of the geopolitical situation. So, and we do have strong financial ties with Saudi Arabia. So it is an important visit, whatever you may think, for William to represent this country, which he does, I have to say, very well.
Very well. Before we move on to Harry and Meghan, I saw a Reddit comment that I thought was really interesting too, and you're friends with this individual. So I was curious to know your opinion. So on Reddit, someone said, former Prince Andrew, his trade invoice records have been repeatedly sought under FOI by biographer Andrew Loney and denied mainly by the Foreign Office. Given his overlap with the Mandelson scandal, the overlapping access with Epstein shared risk, what Andrew shared and with whom is now clearly in the public interest to release. I do agree with that. I was curious to know if you agree with that. Andrew Loney's been banging the door down for these records, saying, I do think it's a public interest. The Foreign Office has been like, no, not really,
Mm.
and denying him. And now we're seeing this overlap where Peter
Mm.
Mandelson could have potentially been giving information to Epstein, and Andrew could have potentially been giving Epstein information around the same time. There's no proof of a relationship between Mandelson and Andrew. But with that overlap of information, Epstein it looks like became a very rich man based on some of these government secrets that these two entities were sharing with him.
Absolutely. And for obviously we both know Andrew, and and I'm I was rung
Loney.
up ahead of the. I know him, and he rang me up ahead of the book for the knowledge I have, obviously having been at school with Andrew and knowing that he was a colonel of my ex-regiment as well. And you actually, I think there comes a time, just like the Mandelson case is causing if we need to get this sorted out, and if he has done something wrong, I'm afraid my view is we now need to get to the bottom of this because it is causing the royal family a constitutional issue and maybe losing some support with the British public. And they need that. Now, the monarchy, since time immemorial, look, I've got a castle built in 1142, right, with Henry II running around. The monarchy has had crisis throughout, even back in we obviously had a time when there was no monarchy for 11 years, when Oliver Cromwell was in charge. So the monarchy has suffered from crisis throughout history. But in this much more fickle time, they need to make sure, and obviously since the passing of the late Queen, it was a sort of, we trusted that, it almost has sort of unsettled everything. And suddenly we've got we can't seem to have a prime minister that lasts longer than 2 years.
Or
We've
lettuce.
got,
Or lettuce.
yeah, so the whole thing is just a mess at the moment. So we need, if, and somehow, if that helps clear his name or sorts it out once and for all, and then the royal family can get back on the front foot, then I have no worries about if there's nothing to hide, don't be ashamed of it. If the Foreign Office, when asked, and we know that Andrew is extremely well connected within this, and even since the publication of the book, he knows it's sort of opened up a Pandora's box, and fair play to him. But it will be, it'll be a task for him. But ultimately, Andrew, we know the monarchy is having existential threats, but the threat is being called almost internally by Andrew's actions, which are causing, I'm sure they can't sit round and, the very popular program over here is Traitors. And I don't know whether William and Catherine are fans of it, but if they are, it means even that they probably can't think, because they probably think, well, what's my uncle doing now? So there we go. It is a very difficult time for William. But
One
as I
last
say,
question before I lied about it. Two questions, I guess, because this is my second. When you think about Andrew testifying before Congress, do you think what a waste of resources? This is not a credible witness, because that's what I think. I went back and watched the BBC interview last week. Wow,
oh,
what a person, just willing to BS. I mean, you can see it, the smug look on his face as he shuts down the Emily
oh,
Maitness as she's trying to ask the questions. I just think, because I told you earlier, I'm hearing that inside the palace there are serious debates as to whether they should encourage him to actually testify. Why? He's not a credible witness. I don't see the value in it. I just really
uh,
feel like it would be a waste of resources.
I don't know. What do you think that interview? He had the absolute stupidity to say, well, that went well, didn't it? Uh, to Emily Maitlis as he walked out, the absolute brain deadness of him, to even think like that, and you go, the whole thing was just a absolute unmitigated disaster. So that's probably what they're fearing. But ultimately, if he's denied it, well, then if you're denying it, and now we even got Ghislaine Maxwell saying that photograph was absolutely true, where he's got his arm around Virginia Giuffre, and actually he said it was photoshopped.
It's a picture
So
of a picture of a picture.
oh, and you go, oh, everything is now, that pack of cards has completely collapsed, and his case for the defense. And it just, as now, it's coming back to haunt him, just as that Peter Mandelson interview did just a few weeks ago. on a which was, saying, I didn't see anything that was going on there because I'm gay,
Oh
and
my
then
gosh, I
next
couldn't
minute he's,
believe that line.
yeah, next minute he's photographed with a woman in a room in his underpants, and you think, well, okay,
Right.
that's a different look.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is so unedifying, so unseemly, and yet the British government and royal family are in the centre of this maelstrom.
It's devastating. Let's pivot to some not as interesting topics of conversation. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Meghan Markle appeared solo at the annual 15% pledge fundraising gala over the weekend. It honored Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, for her leadership, advocacy, and commitment to empowering Black communities and creators. So another red carpet that Meghan chooses to walk down without her husband. It's really hard for me to take Prince Harry seriously when he sits on a stand in the UK and talks about how the media has made his wife's life a misery when she stops and holds her poses and follows the photographer's requests on LA red carpets more often than not. I mean, Meghan would show up to the opening of an envelope. We all know that, and I love that line. But she loves she loves the step and repeat. She loves to stand there and pose. We saw her on the red carpet at Sundance answering questions. What is your response to seeing her on another red carpet? And do you have a hard time taking Harry's cries for privacy and cries for, you know, the media to let up on his family when Meghan is actually chasing the spotlight?
Uh, that's, I'm sure, is causing some marital discussions. Uh,
What a nice
give
way to
me,
say that.
yeah,
Marital discussions.
marital discussions. Look, I need you to be, and I tell you what, to my untrained eye, I wasn't overly impressed with the dress. Am I being harsh there or just
Oh, I
old? I
thought it
mean,
was Rupert. It looked like someone went into a Montecito Goodwill and grabbed a like goose down comforter off a bedspread or whatever. I mean, it looked puffy and
didn't
and
fit.
they tried to make it a dress. I did not think it flattered her at all.
No, I don't think it did either. And walking around with that stupid train.
Yeah. Oh
Why
my
do
God.
people? Well, I mean, I'm sorry. You don't wear a train going to. I mean, okay, when they go to the Grammys, people, to wear an outrageous
Yeah,
frock, that's
if it's the Met Gala, we get it, Meghan.
yeah, well, it's a stick, okay?
Oh my
Let's,
gosh, I just had a thought. I just had a thought. Oh my
okay,
gosh,
okay.
oh my God, Rupert, I'm gonna vomit.
Light bulb.
Is Meghan did Meghan go to this gala because she is trying to really get in with Beyonce? I'm sorry. Beyonce has not formally acknowledged Meghan Markle since Meghan went on her Netflix TV show and read out loud private text messages Beyonce allegedly sent to her about breaking generational curses or whatever. I can't remember what the text was, but Meghan's like, Beyonce just texted me, remember? And Harry goes, and he looks at the
Oh,
camera, and then Meghan,
girlfriend.
exactly, yes. And then Meghan reads the text message out loud. Well, since then, we've seen Meghan attend two Beyonce concerts, but she didn't attend with Tyler Perry and Oprah and Gayle King. And then she had like nosebleed seats, and she, like,
Harry looked
Beyonce
bored. Harry was bored in that one, wasn't
at
he?
the first concert, yes, but Harry didn't go to the second concert.
Oh, right.
Then Meghan did have Beyonce's mom on her podcast where she proceeded to talk all about herself and not ask Beyonce's mom questions about her. But is Meghan really trying to build this bond right now because she wants an invite to the Met Gala because I believe Beyonce is on the committee this year?
Oh, interesting. Megan just wants to be part of all those single ladies. See what I did
Oh,
there? All the single ladies. This. Look, it's I don't. I looked down the list of the celebrities of which Megan's list wasn't included on, and I have to say I had no idea who any of them were. Okay, I do know who Beyonce is, and obviously her mum. Does she do an awful lot of good work? I don't know. I'm asking you to sort of put her into context, and I'm sure she does. And I
Let me
don't.
tell you what happened. I think that this charity, oh, here's what, when I used to plan events for celebrities in my
Mhm.
20s, in my past life, what we had a strategy where if I wanted Mariah Carey to come to my LG event, I would invite Nick Cannon because
Yeah.
she
Oh,
was
yeah.
married to Nick Cannon. So I couldn't afford with my budget,
Yeah.
I could not afford Mariah Carey. So what I would do was I would invite Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey would show up on his arm. And it was 2 for 1 basically at a discounted
Yeah.
price. So what I think that the organizers were attempting to do here was invite Tina or to was to celebrate Tina Knowles in hopes that it would lure Beyonce out of her,
Mhm.
remember Beyonce and Jay-Z were at Kris Jenner's party, but they showed up through the back door. There aren't any photographs of them. Beyonce's incredibly private. Like Meghan needs to take a cue from Beyonce. Meghan is too much. We see too much of her. Overexposure is real. And Beyonce disappears until she's ready to make a statement, to sell an album, to do a tour. And that's the only time we see her. But otherwise, Beyonce's incredibly private. I think that the organizers decided to celebrate Tina Knowles in an attempt to lure Beyonce out. I don't think that it happened. I don't think Beyonce was there. And Meghan, I think, wanted to be at a Beyonce event, and I think ultimately she wants to get an invite to the Met Gala this year. So, does Tina Knowles do good things? I think she does enough to be recognized, but I think the ultimate goal was to get Beyonce to attend this event, and I think that they were unsuccessful. But they got
Uh,
Meghan Markle.
well, I got Meghan Markle. Why? Well, it's played over here, but it's charities and American charities. So it doesn't really matter much over here. Would you advise Mariah Carey to wear that dress at the Winter Olympics opening ceremony? Someone described it as looking like she was wearing a meringue. Uh, so anyway, but anyway, it was a big sort of, we were rude about Meghan's dress. Well, hey, Mariah Carey's, I mean, she's a diva, isn't she?
Well, and she did also did Meghan's podcast, by the way, where she
so,
called Meghan Markle a diva, and Meghan was literally offended. Meghan was like,
yeah.
"What do you mean? Give
Yeah,
us
oh,
five
I remember
minutes."
that. Yeah, but so anyway, but interesting. I think for Meghan to go there, and it does just show that she is turning up, and Harry looks even. He writes about being a spare, and at the moment he looks a spare in it, definitely a spare in his own marriage because it's all about Meghan. And
Mm-hmm.
Harry has done this court case. He's laying low. Okay, we saw him at that thing the other day where he looked unhappy. He didn't look as if this
Sundance?
was
Is it Sundance that you're referring to?
the Sundance. Yeah, he didn't look as if he was having a barrel of laughs. And that documentary doesn't seem to have caused too many ripples in terms of its appreciation and what it was about. And actually, it seems like the tone of it was rather opposite to what Meghan actually wanted, if
Yeah.
I'm reading the Vibes
Yeah.
reviews correct. But
Yeah.
that's, I haven't seen it, so I'm talking slightly out of turn here. But ultimately, it just looked like Meghan again trying too hard, and in a dress that seemed to be ridiculously difficult to wear. And I saw one shot. There's some assistant running around spreading it out. You don't wear trains that are what is basically a fundraising. I mean,
That's
when you're
exactly it. It's like, you know what you do with those things? You eat, drink, you dance. It's
uh,
not a long train thing. She's so desperate on a carpet. I am embarrassed for her.
well, and if she was having a sit-down dinner, where do you put that train? The poor waiters and waitresses serving them food are in danger of tripping over it or stepping on it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you need a table for in its own right to shove it under,
Yeah.
and whoever you're sitting next to has got to avoid sitting because otherwise you're going to have footprints all over it when you get up to leave.
Do you think they
I mean,
used it as the tablecloth? Do you think she just flipped it over the table behind her?
well, why not? But I don't know. I don't know what was on the menu, but I hope the waiters and waitresses didn't spill any on it because they might have got one of those famous Megan looks. But anyway, it's just part of her craving for the limelight. And look, it's just a dinner. Grammys are a big institution. Whatever you agree, it's a bit of a, occasionally, pop stars, it turns into a bit
It's
of
a
a,
moment. Yeah, I
it's a
get what you're
moment. It's a
saying.
bit
It's a
of,
moment.
it's people
It's a
watching.
cultural moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just, pop stars have always, the music industry is part of its DNA is to shock and you create publicity. But a charity dinner for Beyonce's mum doesn't sound like it's a sort of rock and roll moment that requires you being dressed in a bigger train than you look like you had for your wedding.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. Well, you mentioned Prince Harry, the spare. Let's talk about. I'm hoping you disagree with this article as much as I did in OK Magazine. The headline is Royal Family warned Prince Harry is actually vital to its brand as the firm enters its most joyless era. One royal source told OK, what the monarchy is lacking at the moment is the lightness Harry once brought with him. It's fine, Rupert. We have Louis. Okay.
Mm.
He had a natural humor and ease that cut through formality. And without that presence, the institution feels unusually somber. It has created an atmosphere that many see as its most joyless period in years, making it harder for the public to feel engaged. The insider added, now it goes into their approval ratings. Harry's is ridiculously low. We talk about that all the time. But they stress that the average age of senior working royals is now in the late 60s, and younger Brits appear increasingly disengaged. One palace watcher said, this is precisely why Harry still matters to the monarchy's public image. He understands how to reach audiences who are unmoved by ceremony and scripted addresses, and he communicates in a way that feels natural to people who would otherwise switch off. Who is their source? Harry and Meghan? Like, I
Uh,
completely disagree with this.
right. Right. Here we go.
Here we
Before Meghan,
go. I'm going
here
to
we go.
fasten my
Before
seatbelt.
Meghan, he was good. That was good. It's almost like there, and there was good. Preach a bell here, right? And there was good, and he was good, and and it was rock and roll, and he was, he was up to no good. He was just, but he served in the army. He did all the in military. He did all the right things. He was a good royal. And you're right, that is one of the worries now. And with all this stuff, the Andrew Hooper and the age of the siblings of Andrew, it does cause a problem. And where is the person to pick up the reins and take some of the slack? It can't all be on William, and I think that's a burden for him and Catherine. It can't be. And it is a joyless time for the royal family because they're reading all this rubbish and horrible stuff about Andrew. So it is joyless. They're not able to go confident with a smile, even though they know they might be doing good work. But
Yeah.
we're not going to have that. The royal family are not saying we need him back because we need, he doesn't
Because
want to
that
be back.
that that guy doesn't exist anymore, is what
No,
you're
and
saying.
you
Yeah.
and you look at him now, and he looks misery. Because the only time we see him is now scuttling into court, fight, which he might win the case. I don't know. We still will drag on for a few more weeks and then before we get the result. And then he may be vindicated by his whatever his bringing these suits to associated newspapers. But ultimately, that's an easy article to write and say, well, of course we're missing that Harry, but we haven't got that Harry
Yeah,
now.
I
And
don't
yes,
think he exists anymore. I think
no.
he's gone forever, forever,
Well, he's a
because I think
bitter
he'll
and
always resent this period of his life, and I don't think he'll ever go back.
well, yeah, I mean, he does. But Meghan has turned his head and made him a misery because he's had to give up what he was, I don't say born to do, but what he was good
He
enough
was,
because he's,
Rupert. He was born to do this. And
yeah,
not
and
only
he
was he
was, and
born
he
to
was,
do this, but his mom specifically said, when William ascends to the throne, I want Harry to be his right hand man. This is like he talks about how important his mother is to him. Well, way to disregard everything she taught you and everything she instilled in you, because her ultimate objective was for William to have support once he became king. And thank God for Catherine. Thank God that Princess Catherine has got a great head on her shoulders. We hear that he has a temper and she's who calms him down. Thank God he found such a good partner, the antithesis of Harry, because it's so unfair that Harry abandoned the job that he was not only born into, but the job that his mother had groomed him for.
And this is why, it is frustrating, I'm sure, for the royal family that he's gone this route because we all know, and I'm sure we've mentioned it on this program before, there was a degree of expectation that Meghan would be a positive influence for the royal family, and Harry looked happy. Yet it didn't take long for that view to unravel, and then he's scuttling off to North America, and you go, where is he? He's writing vitriolic books about his family. He's appearing on a Netflix documentary, having a go at them all, and just looking plain angry.
Bitter.
But the trouble is, he's like Andrew. There ain't much going on there.
Entitled too, like Andrew. Entitled.
Absolutely. Feels that, he's owed, I didn't choose this, but he's owed it. And, he might be living a bit like Andrew and Fergie, probably living maybe way beyond their means. They can't, and they've got to work hard. And, what's he born to do? I mean, he can't go and do an office job and run he wouldn't knuckle down to it. He wouldn't be that kind of person. But that kind of person that can have an impact out on the road and be entertaining and good company and interested in people, that's what we saw before. But that is nearly a decade ago now, because we're, 2016. When did he meet? What was the year he met Meghan? You probably got that.
2016, yeah.
Yeah. So it's 10 years ago that
Right.
she came into his life. He's got two children, very important. But again, how that he can spend time with his children and bring them up in America and they can enjoy the life over there. But the royal family ship that has sailed while Meghan is out there trying to get as much publicity as she can. Maybe there are one or two things going on behind the scenes that we don't know what they're involved in. But at the moment, for Harry, that article, it's an easy one to write because, yes, of course they miss the old Harry. But as you quite rightly say, the new Harry bears no comparison to that Harry.
What a mic drop moment. Rupert, did you have anything else to share with the audience before we tell them goodbye?
Well, should I have? No, probably not. I think I'm done, really.
Yeah.
I'll give you a horse update next week. And maybe tomorrow I'll have a quick run round Trim.
Okay.
The castle and see. I'll tell you one thing now. My godfather did own Berkeley Castle, which is in the West Country. And when I
Wow.
was a little lad, I used to be taken there, and they've got a dungeon in this castle, and it's a story. Edward II, by all accounts, was killed there. And if you read Shakespeare, his demise was not a comfortable way. It required a red hot poker, and his screams were supposed to be heard from a long way. I leave the rest to your imagination. But that dungeon used to terrify the wits out of me. And
Yeah.
if I was under would be told, if you're a naughty boy, you know where you're going. And I've been into that dungeon. It's a great big it's open to the public, Berkeley
Yeah.
Castle. And as I say, my godfather used to live in it. And when I was a little lad going around Berkeley Castle. So I don't think there's a dungeon quite like that one. But the one at Berkeley Castle, if you were at the bottom of that, and this is back in the centuries and centuries ago. So anyway, out of nowhere, we started with a castle and we've ended with a castle.
Full circle.
So,
Full circle. All right. Well, agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much, Rupert Bell. That was a fun chat, even though we talked about some pretty heavy topics. I'm glad we navigated it the way we did. And I don't think that royal news is going to slow down anytime soon. So thanks for helping me. Thanks for helping me communicate about it.
It wasn't fun. It's a serious topic, but occasionally you've got to laugh at things because otherwise it's a pretty depressing world out there. And this,
So
by the way,
thank you. Thanks, Meghan Markle, for giving us something to laugh at. That dress.
And by the way, this is water. Okay. I haven't drunk, and that is not a vodka bottle, okay? That is water. So it's this was a 3/4 bottle of water, Heirs and Spares.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad you're staying hydrated, Rupert. I think that's very important. Bye, guys.